know. My gosh, sorry about that. I was having a tough time connecting.
Oh, where are you? That doesn't look like your loft.
No, I'm in a market center, which is a really happy place to be.
All right. Good to see you. Gosh, I've missed you the last couple months.
Same.
Yeah. So we are getting typically around 30 people on these. It's a safe, awesome group of leaders. And I do think you've got some friends here.
I see that. I see Brian Garrity. That's fun.
He was so excited this morning. All right, dear. Do you want to just jump in?
Let's jump in. Let's do it.
So I'm just going to ask a couple opening questions, and then you just tell your story. Cool?
I like it. I'm
All
in.
right. How long you been with KW?
I have been with Keller Williams since December of 2013.
2013.
Yep.
Seems like a lifetime ago, huh?
Well, it does, because if you count how many years they called me before I came, it's been almost a decade.
What got you to come?
Yeah, it's funny. So I did a transaction with a KW agent. It was great. And he asked me to have a coffee. And I went and had coffee. It was actually me and another friend of mine at the same brokerage. We went and had a coffee, gave me a red book, and started like talking about their company and their beliefs and the culture and all these things. And I was like, well, this is not who I thought Keller Williams was or had heard. And that was enough of a peak in my interest for me to finally go meet with the team leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what was your life and your business like then?
I was about a $5 million producer.
Let's step back for a second, because not everybody knows, where are you? Because it means different to be a $5 million producer where you're at.
There,
where
yeah.
we're at.
So I live in central Kentucky, and to give you some perspective, I was a part of the #1 independent brokerage in our area, and I was like number 8 top agent in top independent at about 5 million in sales volume.
Which would equate to how many units? Just rough ballpark.
30 units a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but which, by the way, I didn't know my numbers. So
surprise.
Yeah, so when I went to meet with the team leader, it was like, well, what's your goal? I don't know. Never had a goal. Well, how much did you sell last year? No idea. How much did you pay your broker? No clue. So that was how we started our conversation.
Which is fascinating to me, because I've only known the very goal-driven Tara.
Yeah, no database. 10 years in the business at that point with no database. Just very entrepreneurial. People would reach out. I'd sell their house, and I was
normal realtor.
Yeah, normal realtor.
All right, so then you joined KW, and what's been your path?
Okay, so at that time, I was married to my now ex-husband. Okay, so we were business partners, and we went into the meeting about Keller Williams and got offered an opportunity to be investors in a market center launch. So I was like, sign me up. I love it. So what happened is we decided to take the opportunity. And in order to kind of solidify that, one of us had to travel to Austin to FSO. And and just so you guys know, I lived a very sheltered life prior to like all of this. So we decided I would fly to FSO, and it was the first time as an adult I'd been on an airplane by myself. So it was like, I was afraid I was like, oh my gosh, can I get from the airport entrance to the terminal and get on a plane as an adult and get there? Like,
this is one of the reasons why I said it's like a lifetime ago, because boy, have you blossomed.
Yes, it was so different. So I get on the plane, I fly to FSO, I get in the bus to go to the KWRI. Susan Venters was the person in the seat next to me. If you don't know Susan, she
was one of our first guests. So
okay,
most of the people have been introduced to her.
Cool. So she had been with Keller for 3 weeks, and I had 2, and that's where we met. And now we're still friends. so we went to KWRI. On the way back from KWRI, I got in the back of the bus, and Georgia Alpazar sat down next to me. And she's like, tell me about your team. And I got the MREA in 20 minutes, and I came off the bus with 2 black eyes and knew all the things that I needed to fix. And that was my Austin experience. So, but true story, I got on the plane to fly home, and I had the One Thing book in my hand, and I had this, I think it was a defining moment in Austin. I get a little emotional every time I think about it. I cried the first 20 minutes of my flight home. I sat there and cried on the plane, because what I realized was my love for real estate and my passion for people had just collided, and I had found a company that would allow me to do both and really go out and impact lives and change the world, which is a big thing that I'm passionate about. And so I emailed my OP and said, hey, I'm coming home from FSO. I've fallen in love with our company. Here's what I'm so excited about. And he said, will you be our team leader to launch the Market Center? And so I started down that path, and that's what I did.
Did you know what you were getting into as a team leader?
I was so different then too. It's not the same as I am today. Not the same, because I'm a team leader today. It's not the same, Tara.
Full circle.
Full circle. So I jumped into the TL role. I thought I would be a career team leader. I absolutely love the role. And what happened was my business life exploded and my personal life imploded.
How does that happen?
Well, my spouse at the time was no longer my spouse. Our family and marriage was really dysfunctional, and I had done a really good job of hiding it and picking up pieces and all of that. And what happened was, as I stepped into that TL role, I was sitting down with people every day talking about living their best life, living a life of purpose and passion and fulfillment. And my things at home were out of alignment, which for me, being out of alignment or out of integrity is like a massive breach. And it just, some things.
Most people can only live with that incongruency a certain amount of time. And as you are showing up every day, you know, we've talked a lot on this series about imposter syndrome, but when you know you're being an imposter, that's different than when you feel like you're not quite valid enough. And so how did that get fixed?
Well, a lot of counseling and therapy. And at the end of the day, we just decided that there were parts of that relationship that were massively unhealthy, and we ended up getting divorced. I mean, that's kind of where it ended. Yeah. Here's a funny, you might appreciate this, Ashley. I was a very different person. I met my ex-husband when I was 16 and evolved into a relationship where I never became an adult, basically. Like, I became someone's other half. And I went in to talk to my divorce attorney, and she looked at me and she said, honey, I don't know what you want to do or where you're going to go, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You need to grow a backbone. And I was like, okay, well, you're hired. I'll pay you to help me find it. It's in there somewhere. So that really began that decision changed everything in my trajectory for some time. And
you like you said, you hadn't grown up and you hadn't grown into yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give I kind of warned you. I said, just trust me, I'll take you where we need to go in this conversation. But how old are you, and how old were you when that happened? Because you joined in 2013, but you didn't get out of that marriage in 2013, right?
2014.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it took a year. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. So we ended up divorcing, and I ended up stepping out of the team leader role because my divorce I was somewhat iconic in my market, and I took a lot of heat. And I ended up having to,
You're in Kentucky.
I ended up stepping out of the role. And I'll be really honest, that season I hit rock bottom. Like October 7th, I stepped out of the team leader role, 2014. And I actually celebrate that day every year because I thought I had lost my purpose. Like, that's how much I had plugged into.
Well, you had lost your identity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And so
and and this is interesting. I don't know. Most of us, I think, at some point go through a loss of identity like that. But what I'm hearing is not your entire life as an adult was defined by your role in this marriage as the other half to somebody. You didn't even really have your own identity there. Then you step into the team leader role, passionate about Keller Williams and what we have to offer, and quickly get identified there and probably felt you and recognized for the first time. And then in a year,
gone.
Yeah. That's a big, roller coaster.
Yeah. So.
And again, how old were you?
How old was I?
6 years ago?
32, 33.
Okay.
So here's what happened. I stepped out of the team leader role on October 7th. And because of my spot in the market and how much, and by the way, we had the #1 market center launch for our region and the #1 launch for the country that year for productivity. So we had an amazing launch, and the market, there was a lot of heat around my divorce. It was very public. And so my market center asked me to take a pause in engaging in the market center for some time.
Ouch.
So I pulled out of my role, was basically unplugged from the people. And on the 10th of October, that was the 7th, on the 10th, somebody called me in the market that I had never met, an agent, never met or spoken to. And she said, Tara, I heard about you. And she said, I want to share a story with you. And I said, okay. It was my birthday. October 10th is my birthday. She said, have you ever watched or read the Barbara Walters story? And I was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so she starts telling me, I mean, this is somebody I've never met in my life. She says, Barbara Walters became a newscaster. She was the first female newscaster and took a lot of heat for that. And they basically pulled her out of the role. And she spent 5 years rebuilding her life and reputation. And she earned her spot back on the evening news. And they asked her, why did you do it? And she said, I did it to prove to myself and others that I had earned that in the first place. So that was like the beginning of rock bottom for me. And I always went back to the Barbara Walters story. You've got 5 years. Your life will get back to normal and you can get back to caring for people, which is what I wanted to do.
It didn't take you 5 years though.
Well, that's funny. It did. And I switched my vision. So this is what I think is interesting. Whenever you're on a path, if you're on the call and you're stubborn, I'm very stubborn and I have a hard time.
There's a few here.
Yeah. I have a hard time deviating from the plan, right? So I actually spent 3 years stuck in my own life because the only thing I could think about was how do I get back to being a team leader? Like I literally put pause on my life for 3 years. And then I went to Bold and I got invited to Bold because my market center needed a registration.
Was this 2017?
It was like 2016.
Okay.
Yep. They needed a registration, so they called me. I had not been a part of anything in the market center for over a year. And I went to Bold, and you guys, I sat there and bawled my eyes out every single session. Never called a person, never solicited for a piece of business. I went there to fix my mindset, you know? I just went there to get permission.
Did you know that's what you were going in for, or that would be the experience?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, it was horrible. It was
So it was
very
8 weeks of
uncomfortable.
breakdown.
Lots of breakdowns. I mean, you know how like you do the future self and people get emotional? Like I'm like having a full on like sob fest. Like I couldn't even stop crying. I had to leave.
Awesome.
So that was a real pivotal moment where I had to figure out what it looked like to move forward and start moving forward with my life. And maybe the future didn't look like I thought it was going to look. And was I okay with that?
All right. So what happened? That was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago.
Yeah. So this is funny. I was telling Bo about this the other day. I'm in that bold session and Scott Toombs was our coach. And he started telling us how anybody, like he was trying to help us think about belief. And he said, you guys, do you realize in this session of bold, you could decide today to go out and sell $1 million worth of, income in real estate, and it could happen this year. And he was selling us on this. And he said, how many people in the room believe it's possible? And immediately I raised my hand. And I looked around and I was the only person in the room with my hand raised. And so he called me that evening and he said, Tara, you need to really think about being a coach. You need to think about, first of all, hiring a coach and then being a coach because you see things differently. And that was like the first time, I didn't even know we had coaches or what they were, right? Like that's how clueless I was. And that was like the first time it had been such a season of stuckness. That was the first time somebody saw me and said, wow, like
there's possibility.
You've got something there that is worth exploring. And that was enough that the switch went on. And I was like, hey, I'm 34. There's a life out here. Let's go figure out what it's all about.
Okay. So from my perspective, that was enough. I mean, I have not seen the small Tara that you just described at all. I've only seen the big, brave, outspoken, hardworking Tara. So from that moment when Scott saw you and identified that, what happened?
Yeah. So I hired a coach. That was the first thing. And I'm probably the only person in my market at the time that had done that. And I basically said, I'm hiring you to help me with one thing. I want you to help me become a coach.
Awesome.
And by the way, I had no database, no systems, didn't know my numbers. Same girl, just looking for a path to get on to help people, right? And so beginning of 2017, I met Bo in that interim. We met through Keller Williams, right? So after my divorce, between then and Bold, I met my now husband, right? So, we got together. We got married in 2016. So somewhere in that season.
Okay.
So we got called in 2017 to help open a market center in Cincinnati, another market center launch, and they wanted help and knew that the Lexington office had done really, really well. And so we came and started helping open this office, the Cincinnati office. And that was also a really cool time for me because I was like, oh, I get to kind of get back in with people, still selling real estate, still on the coaching path, all of that stuff. And so we did get to be investors in a market center launch in Cincinnati in 2017. I just kept doing my thing and ended up being approved to be a MAPS coach. That was also 2017. That year I decided to partner with an expansion team and I worked with them for a year. And that's kind of how we met, right?
Yep.
Coaching. And I've just been on this path. I've just been on this, really it's been me fighting myself to get out of my own
what
way.
It always is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me fighting me to get out of my own way so that I could actually get I could move forward. And here's the funny thing. There was a spot when I decided that, hey, I might not ever go back to being a team leader. I might be a coach, and that's okay. When I let go of the one thing, everything else opened up. And I used to have this affirmation about opportunity. I used to tell myself, there are opportunities everywhere, and you know, you're going to get opportunity and blah, blah, blah. I don't know why my video went off. So you can still hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. And so what happened was when I let go of what I thought life should look like, possibility and opportunity was everywhere. It was
Power of surrender is pretty amazing.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And that kind of put me down that path.
So when you said you hit bottom with the loss of identity in 2014, what did that look like? Because to be stuck for 3 years, I've been there, and I think most people have, but man, it's a process to come out of it. What did that look like for you? Besides Scott saying, "Hey, I see something in you."
I mean, I was selling real estate to just pay my bills. I was taking care of, I have 4 boys. I was really focusing on them.
I don't know that everybody knows that. So tell us how old your kids are.
Okay, so I have 4 boys, and they are 19, 18, and almost 16.
God bless you.
So that kept me busy in that season.
Probably keeps you kind of busy now.
It does keep me busy now. It's fun
How's
now.
quarantine going with that much testosterone?
That's a whole other call. You can't do that on this call. That's the life. That's the part of my life y'all don't want to see today. No, I'm kidding. It's great. I've enjoyed them a lot, actually.
And I should have asked you this. You guys were also in stay at home. Obviously you're in the market center today, but how long have you been back in normal operation?
We did a soft open about a week ago, and our staff is in the market center, and we're not doing like a formal grand opening because we want to be aware of COVID.
Sure.
And just not have 100 people show up tomorrow, but we're kind of in and out.
Okay. So that 3 years of pause, were you on any kind of internal personal growth journey? Were you taking introspective time, or literally just directionless?
I was directionless. I was reading. So that's when I stumbled into Brené Brown and read Rising Strong and Daring Greatly. And then I read You Are a Badass. I learned what it meant to love yourself. Like, really, I'd never had permission to do that. And had affirmations all over my little house and all that stuff. But the one thing I was doing was reading.
Okay.
And
which is effective, right?
It was effective. The challenge was I couldn't see a pathway forward. Like,
because you were so connected to that team leader path?
Yes, I could.
Okay.
And, I felt like I'd burned bridges in my market, and I'd lost opportunities forever. So it was like, that's all I could see. And yet I couldn't see a pathway to get there.
Okay. So did you burn bridges? And, how is your reputation now in Lexington?
Oh, my reputation, I think, has been okay the entire time. I mean, I teach CE, and I have so many people that follow me and engage in me and stuff like that. I'm still part of the market center in Lexington. I mean, I think it's probably, there was a season of healing, and it probably came after me letting go of the stuckness that I was in.
Okay. What I'm also hearing there is sometimes we hear an opinion of 1 or 2 people, and it takes such presence in the forefront of our mind. It starts to let us define ourselves, but it's not usually 100% true.
Well, now I don't really care. So there's that.
There's the Tara I love.
Once you get past all of that, you kind of move into who you are, and then you're on your path. And that's,
you make that sound so simple, and the vast majority of people have a hard time getting there. So how did you get to know who you are and fully accept that person? I really wish I could see you.
I don't know why the video won't come on. It's not happy. I could leave and come back in. It won't come on for some reason.
Okay.
It's like not working, the video, but I'm here.
All right.
Okay. So how did I get on the path to who I am?
Well, you are who you are, right? And that really hasn't changed. How did you find her and accept her?
Yeah.
And get to the point where really you don't give a shit what anybody else thinks about who you are. You are so strong in who you are. One of the reasons I adore you.
Well, I think that what happened was I got to this space. So if you think about being in rock bottom, you're like in a pit and you're clawing to get out, right? So I was just like every day, how do I get out? How do I get out? And then opportunity opened. And when you're striving for that long, striving becomes the norm. So here's what happens next. I'm engaging with people. I'm in all these opportunities. I'm a coach. I'm working with expansion. And I'm blowing past people. I'm striving because that had become my norm, right? And so I think that one day I just looked up and said, you know what? Like the thing you wanted, which was to impact people, they're all around you and you're missing it because you're clueless. You're missing it. Like it's time to slow down and really be you and impact people's lives and stop chasing whatever it is. Not to say that I don't chase vengeance and all of that, because it is a pretty powerful place. And yet I think that so let me just back up. There's a quote or something out there that basically says, when you can tell your story, until you can tell your story and you not get caught up in emotion, it still has power over you. Mm-hmm. And I might have botched that, but I think there came a space where I started to care for myself and see value in myself enough that it really stopped mattering what people thought. And I started doing what I was doing for the right reasons, which was to help people versus like worrying about everybody else.
Okay. So now that we're talking about pretty much 3-year journey, how'd you get back in the team leader role now?
Yeah, I really wish my video was on.
Me too.
I know. I don't know why it's not working. So this is crazy, you guys. I spent so remember the Barbara Walters story, the 5 years. And yep. About 3 years in, I decided to let go of my thoughts about what my life should look like. In September of last year, so September of 2019, do you guys remember the date I got out of the team leader role? October 7th.
October 7th, 2014.
That's right. In September of this year, I got a call and I got asked to step into an interim team leader role in one of our market centers. And I looked at the date and I was like, oh my gosh, it's been almost 5 years to the day. And I had completely forgot about it. And so I was like, I really feel like, and everybody, by the way, everybody thought I was crazy for accepting the role. And what it really came back to was I wanted to prove to myself and prove to others that I was the person to get the job done. And I really do care about people, but a lot of the reason that I do this right now is it's my comeback story. It's my Barbara Walters story.
You got something to prove. What's fascinating though is, and you wouldn't probably self-promote this, and yet in that period of time, this last, I'm going to call it 3.5 years, you became a MAPS coach, but you didn't just become a MAPS coach. You became a MAPS coach who is a cadre coach, which means you focus on a lot of the big teams that are in Gary's top group. Mm-hmm. When I stepped out of MAPS, I think we had 200-ish coaches. I mean, you're in the top 25 coaches in a 3-year period when you weren't really even pursuing the team leader job. You're just doing what you were striving.
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive accomplishment. I want everybody to hear that, because not just anybody gets in that group. One of the best coaches I've met, and I miss our badass cadre.
Yes, me too.
um,
One of the books that I read that really helped me was the book Relentless by Tim Grover. And I'm not a I don't watch sports or anything like that, but it was really about mindset. And the other thing that really helped me is, this is going to be really funny, but I got to tell you guys this anyway. I'm kind of a hippie. I'm a little bit of a hippie, and I'm a little bit of a gypsy. And once I figured out who I was, what I realized is I'm a little bit of a free bird. So there's one side, I'm always battling. One side is very driven. I want to go do all this. And the other side is like out walking barefoot and like dancing around in my floral dresses somewhere with like.
Or mudding it in the Jeep.
Yeah, it's very diverse. But something that really helped me in the season is when I was going through that hard time, I would go look up inspirational quotes. Like I would just try to find things to like help myself get to a good spot every day. And I was really drawn to lions. So I would see pictures of lions and things like that. And I basically engaged with what I call a spirit animal. This is kind of funny, but I'm going to tell you guys this because it brings me a lot of power. I love lions. And when I look at the lion, I see a animal that walks alone. They're courageous. They are a lot of times fearless. And that has been something that really helped me kind of engage in who I am. And between that and the mindset and Tim Grover, the things that I do now, when I think about it, I just think about me operating in these spaces at my best. It's not like I got in a cadre as a top coach, not because I didn't even know they existed. I got a call out of the blue from somebody that said, do you want to be in this? And I'm like, what is it? So it's like anything else. I think if you choose to show up every day and play all in and play at 100% and just be your best self, great things can happen.
The right opportunities open up when you are in alignment with who you are and accepting it. The right things. It's the law of attraction, right?
Well, yeah. And I also think, I'm a fierce believer in this. Every single person has a purpose, and our lives are given to us for a reason. And I feel, this is me, so don't pick it up if you don't want to pick it up. That's totally fine. I feel like it's our responsibility. This is my responsibility to become the version of myself that I think will impact the world. And so every day I get up, and it's not a like, hey, today's going to be a great day. It's a responsibility in my mind. So that's how I choose to show up.
So I know when I figured out my purpose, I will always remember the moment it hit me. And I don't think that's the process for everybody. So where did you figure out what your purpose was? How did you do that?
So when I was on that flight in Austin home from Austin, so let me back up. When I was a little girl, my mom said to me, hey, one day you're going to grow up and change the world. And she said that like probably all mothers say to their kids, right? And somewhere in my journey, I met Diana. And that is something that she said and she believed. And that ignited in me, hey, we can do this. We can impact the world. If you've not read the book, Make Your Bed, that was another big one. I listened to that a lot in that 3-year period for hope. And, I think that if you can, we talk about big whys, the big sexy, all the sound effects and the glitter and bling. I don't think that's the big why. Mm-hmm. I think the big why is the thing that helps you put your feet on the floor every day with passion and purpose, and probably causes emotion. And I think it can change. I think it can be in one space and move to another.
I agree. And I think, it's there if the emotion is there. I think it's always emotional. If you're not emotional about it, it's probably not your big why.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. Now I totally understand. With all that background, now I totally understand why you love the lion head that Tony has behind his desk at the house.
Yes.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So now what? Here we are, team leader. You've been back in that role, gosh, in a very odd time.
Yeah. I was very angry. I spent like 2 weeks when COVID hit, like really ticked off, to be honest. Like that's just the ugly spot sometimes behind leadership, because my goal was to come in. You guys, I've got a boulder the size of like Colorado on my right shoulder right now. Like I'm on the like watch me path, because I'm proving it to me and others that I can do this. And so I just decided I'm going to come in, I'm going to do it really, really well. I'm going to blow it up, knock it out of the park. And COVID hit. And then I threw a fit because I was like, I didn't sign up for this. This isn't part of the plan. Get me out of this role. I don't want to be the leader when the world is falling apart.
Oh, well, that's when we need the leaders, dear.
I know it. So, yeah, it's going really, really well. I'm like, I think I could be a team leader forever. I just love what I get to do every day. I love the people. I'll be honest, it's not been easy. I had to come in and we had to make some changes. I was on a call right before this call about changes. We've made changes, and change is not easy ever. Nope. And however, our market center is top in the region, and we're not going to stop. So
what was the condition of it when you stepped in September or October?
It was not in a good space. It was worse than what me and my OP thought it was when me and my OP agreed that I would step in. The culture was not in a good space. 2 weeks after I joined, 8 people transferred, got, our office, out of our office. There was just a lot of negative mindset, a lot of people burn out. We did not talk about profit share or culture here. And I feel like that's kind of the heartbeat of our company. And
it is. And typically when market centers aren't talking about it, it's because neither exists, right?
That's right.
So that was 8 months ago. And you just said you're number one in your region now. How do you do that?
So we are number one for growth and number 2 for retention, which I think is really cool. We have reduced the size of our staff by 50%. So we have less than half of the staff we had, and we're operating with systems and models. So just like
funny.
Yeah.
You have those.
It's crazy when you build like an onboarding system so agents have a great experience, people enjoy their company. So we've learned a lot, and it's been still not easy. We still, I think anytime somebody comes in and shifts the culture, this is for your business too. If you come in and flip that culture upside down, there's going to be resistance. And
sometimes it's absolutely necessary. You have to make peace with the resistance.
Yeah, I think that it all kind of goes back to what you asked me about 10 minutes ago. How do you get comfortable with yourself? And when you really love and care for people and you can see the vision, remember, if you're leading people, a lot of times they can't see the vision yet. And sometimes we've got to march towards it for quite a while before they still can see it. Like we might have climbed 5 mountains before they can see the sunrise. Like it's every single day. No, this is where we're going and this is why, and really selling that vision. And now we're in a spot where it's coming to fruition and everybody can see it. And they're like, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. And we're getting it to be in a really fun space right now.
So what's fun for me, and I've only seen a few team leaders do this over the years, but you can go in and very quickly make a massive impact at a market center if you are clear on your vision and you're fully committed to do whatever it's going to take. And the same thing shows up on agent teams, which we've both coached. Gary does say, and you lived the Barbara Walters story, you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years, but your life and your business can be dramatically different to the positive in less than a year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And have you been working 20-hour days?
Not 20-hour days. I worked a lot in the last 8 months, though.
But that's what it takes, right?
Yeah. I'll be honest. We're in a space now where I actually have people around me that are ready to take the reins, and they are on stuff. But it takes a lot. You know, this is part of something from Bold. You know, they say that a rocket uses 60% of its fuel during liftoff.
Oh, we're going to give credit to Diana on that one. It's the net forward energy ratio.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So Diana said that. Actually, I learned that from her in a coach's training.
Yeah.
And it was really cool.
Me too. And I went, are we really doing math? No, not this kind of math.
There was like 30 minutes of math equations. And the one thing I got out, which I use it all the time, is 60% of your fuel will be used during liftoff. And that means that you need to get ready to hit the gas because we're taking off, and it's going to you're going to be in counterbalance, and that's okay. Counterbalance is okay for a season.
It is. And just to break that down for the agents, and if we have leadership, I can't see everybody. If you're going to make a massive change in your team or in your market center, you need 60% of the people fully bought in. You can handle 40% dragging you back as long as you've got 60% going forward. If that is inverse, 50-50, 40-60, you're never going to get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with us personally. If you get 60% of your habits in line, good habits in line, you can handle the 40% of bad ones. You'll still take off. It's not an excuse not to go for 100%, but it's just the math. So what next, Tar?
I mean, I have some goals, some things that I'm working towards. And what's next for me in this role in Cincinnati is that we're going to be the #1 real estate office in Cincinnati, the #1 Keller Williams office in our region. And every day somebody comes in my office and says something they're passionate about. Like, I want to have the #1 Spanish speaking business in Cincinnati, and it goes on my board. So now we're going to be the #1 Spanish speaking brokerage, you know, the #1 brokerage to service Spanish speaking clients, and the #1 brokerage to service commercial agents. And so I have a running list now of the things my people want that I feel as the leader, it's my responsibility now to create the company that supports them in getting that. And so there's all kinds of things we're doing. And
what I love about that, Tar, is the interconnectedness of the vision. And I want to say this as a leader, sometimes be careful what you wish for and the vision you cast, because when people really buy into it, they're going to push it and make that vision even bigger. You can become #1 in your region without being #1 Spanish speaking office or #1 commercial. Now you got to do all of it, which I love. And that's a sign of a true leader. Your people get it. So now they're going to push you.
Yeah. And that's great. That's why I keep it up in the office. And the other thing is like, we are in business. This was the biggest cultural shift, and we're still working on this. We are in business to serve our people. That's it.
100%.
Like, I show up here every single day to serve people, and just like you guys do in your sales teams. And if that's not where your heart is, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm just going to say it's probably going to it's going to look a little bit different than if you show up that way. Right.
Okay. So I have two questions, and then we can kind of tie it up. First, and I just looked at who's on the call. We've got multiple people from different market centers, and I know our region just got purchased and is under new phenomenal leadership. And I know we've got some market centers that also have been struggling. So as a team leader who just went in and pretty much did a 8-month turnaround, what's the first thing you would say we have to do if we're going into a place that needs a culture and production turnaround?
the very first, in my opinion, this may or may not be the right answer. My opinion is that we have to grow. We have to grow because there's two ways that you look at this, right? Like when I came into this office, there were people all around me. Ashley, I went into the first meeting with my staff and was told in the first 5 minutes, no one on the leadership team had ever been hired with an expectation of growth. And I was also told, yes, and I was also told that I, as the team leader, could not hire anyone to the market center without the staff and in that leadership team's approval, because they wanted to handpick who we were in business with. And so here's the thing. You may or may not like mega churches, but it's the best analogy that I can give you. Yep. We can all sit in our pew with our name engraved on the hand part. Like you can have your pew with your name engraved and you can sit there your entire life in your little space. Or we can choose to go out and grow, and we can grow an amazing community with culture and opportunity, and we can get cool movie theater seats and lights and sound, and we can have small groups, and we can get a cool coffee station and all of these other things. And I think that if we don't focus on bringing people in to our organization, we will go backward. You're either growing or you're dying. Yeah. And for agents, every time you bring in another top agent, you get better. Your DNA changes and you get better. So my advice to leadership is get out of the sandbox and go lead, which means go find amazing people for your agents to be in business with, so you can go hire the amazing staff and bring the amazing services in to serve your people at the highest level.
Awesome. All right. And then my final question is, with everybody, what can we do for you? How can we help you? How can we help your agents from wherever we are?
Oh my gosh. I wasn't expecting that. I think the thing you could do to help my agents is if you have referrals in Cincinnati, send them to the agents at Keller Williams 7 Hills.
Okay.
They would appreciate that. What else could we do? I think, you guys are out in California, we're in Cincinnati, and I think if you're part of this company, and I hate to keep using the word responsibility, but we have been given such a gift. We have been given such a gift. Like my life looks so different if I hadn't gotten on that airplane 5 years ago. And every single person on this call has been given the exact same gift. I am no different than anybody on this call. I just got on the plane. That's it. And I think that when you're given gifts like we've been given, there's also a responsibility to share that with others. And 100%. So I would say be a person of culture, be a person that grows a great business in your market, and go out and give back. Reach behind you to somebody that's not getting what you're getting. I mean, you guys have an amazing leader. We got to help other people. That's what I would ask of you. For me, is go help other people.
One of the conversations you and I have had over the last couple of years is be the leader you want to be following. Do your best to be that leader, because my goodness, the world needs it right now.
Oh my gosh. So that was part of that 3-year journey, looking for my leader. And finally somebody said, why don't you stop looking and why don't you go become the leader you would follow? Which was kind of a slap in the face. And then it was like, okay, well, that's going to be hard, and let's go do it.
Can't expect it unless you're willing to become it, right?
That's right.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we let you go into your wonderful Monday? And thank you for launching us off this week.
What would I share? If you don't have a spirit animal, you need to go find your animal. They really exist. And
I texted you a picture, by the way.
I saw it. The lion is really important to me. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you've not figured out the thing that gets your feet on the floor with passions, just start there. You don't need to go sell 100 houses or 5 until you know what in the world you're doing it for. And once you know it and you believe it, anything becomes possible. So I would just say, don't limit yourself. Think really big. Think about what you want in your life and for your family, and go make it happen.
And what a great time during this pause to be doing that.
Who said pause? There ain't no pause. This rocket has lifted off. Hit the gas.
Well, some of us are still stuck at home, Tara.
You need a stationary bicycle or something that you can.
Yeah.
I love it. Anybody, do you guys have any questions? Anybody have questions, or I don't know if that's okay?
Oh yeah, of course it's okay. I'm looking in the chat box. Could you please share a list of those books that you mentioned? I was driving and could not write them down. I wrote a couple of them down, but if we share a lot of books on here. So if you would email me all your favorite, most transformative books, I'll get them out.
I would love to.
We can post them.
Yeah, I love it.
Anything by Brene Brown, Deirdre.
Oh, and she has a podcast too that's amazing. And she's all about vulnerability, shame, and failure. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Go get some of that.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions in there.
Cool. Well, this has been a gift. I'm sorry my video is not working, but I can see you all, and I appreciate you being on here. This has been awesome.
It has been so much fun. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great week. Go get them.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you soon.